Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of my Kickstarter Diaries. This week is the 26th of October and it's a week that caught me by absolute surprise. For those who don't know, we're based in Melbourne and actually we have just been granted some freedoms. It's been really nice to get out of the house. We've been in hard lockdown for 15 weeks now, so we haven't seen anyone other than each other, haven't had a haircut or any of that kind of thing. So it's been a fairly long time. We've been pretty much in lockdown all year. So this week, Maggie and I were out and about a little bit, but I still managed to spend a lot of money on Kickstarter. I just don't know how this happens. So let's get straight into it this week. So the first game that I instantly backed, and I just really didn't see this one coming. I didn't hear much about it beforehand. It kind of went under the radar. When I saw the box art, I think I may have seen that before, but it didn't really call out to me so much. The game is Shogun no Katana, and really, well, that's Japanese, and Shogun is like a military leader from Imperial Japan, and katana is a type of sword that they use, and the particle no in Japanese is an ownership particle, so it's basically saying the Shogun sword, and that's what this game is all about. So in the game, from what I understand, you are using worker placement, which of course Maggie and I absolutely love, but there's a little puzzle involved in the game. So you're getting resources using these miniatures, which also I'm all in on because, I love painting these days. So you're collecting resources to fill these little squares here. But these little squares go onto a puzzle board. Let me see if I can find a good picture of that for you. Because the puzzle board is where I think the game is really interesting, and it's what has got me in on this game. So you each have an individual player board, and you're kind of activating rows and columns on that player board, and then they slide together and it becomes a bit like your own personal sliding puzzle. And this is the area where you're meant to be forging weapons thematically. Maggie would make me say that thematically, but I think mechanically this just looks like a really interesting puzzle to me, and adds another element to the usual worker placement. So I'm all in on this. With the deluxe edition, didn't see it coming, so that was a little bit of well, actually it's quite an expensive game at €89, so that was an unexpected expense this week. And speaking of deluxe editions, the next game that I backed was Endless Winter. Now, I spoke about this last week because this was one that I was actually anticipating, and it's so great to see this campaign come to life. They've already well and truly met their goals in terms of backers, and the reviews that have been coming in on this game have just been so amazing, and from all of the kind of biggest reviewers, and it just looks so great. The designer, Stan Kordonsky, he is the designer of Rurik, which yet to play, but is meant to be fantastic and a very clever worker placement system, or not worker placement, action selection system. And the art here is by the Miko, who obviously has done all of the Architects of the West Kingdom kind of series. And so this is super exciting to see these two people come together to create what looks like an amazing game. It is worker placement combined with deck building, two awesome mechanics that it will be really interesting to see how they come together. The deluxe edition looks super cool, and I couldn't help myself but go all in on it. So you've got the base edition, the Pathfinder, Shaman edition, and then the Chief. And the Chief comes with all of the resources in resin, and they look really great. They would probably look even better with a really easy wash over the top of them. And then a large playmat. So who can resist? I mean, expensive week. I'm excited about it. The next game that, of course, was an instant back for us was Brick and Mortar. Obviously, I won't go on about this because we have done a review of it, which I can link to in this video. But Brick and Mortar is a little economic game where you are selecting retail stores, and each of you have 4 retail stores at a time where you can take goods from the market and sell them back depending on consumer demand. A very clever economic based game on supply and demand with auction bidding to try and undercut your opponents. And I'm really looking forward to trying this at 3 or 4 players, because Maggie and I have only played it at 2, but by the time this comes in, hopefully we'll be back to our usual gaming groups. I should also say that the artist here, Tristan Rosson, was responsible for the recent game Tranquility, which is also really beautiful, and the art here is just absolutely stunning, and each one of these stores are individually illustrated, and yeah, they're just really amazing. It's a beautiful game. So those were 3 instant backs for me, which was, you know, really expensive when I'm having my coffee in the morning looking at what's new, because obviously here it's Wednesday when all of the games tend to drop. Our Tuesday in the middle of the night. So Wednesday morning is always coffee and spending for me. Then the next is Yedo Deluxe Master Set. And if you watched one of my other videos when this came into the mail, I did a little bit of an unboxing. You'll know that I already own this. I already own the Deluxe Master Set. It's already been on Kickstarter, but they said that they had such a strong response to it and so many people wanting to access the game after they delivered it, that they are going back to Kickstarter to you know, re-offer the reprint. Now, what's interesting about this is that they also have an expansion. So if you've already got this game, it's well worth checking out this listing, because this little expansion called the Unpleasant Surprise, which I think is just some cards and some tiles, they're delivering it for free worldwide if you buy it. So for $12 US, you get a copy of it and it's delivered for free. And so, you know, delivered for free to Australia is a really big thing. And so I was like, well, you know, it'd be cool to pick up an expansion, and this seems like a great opportunity to do so. Maggie's also really keen to get into this game because David Turchi's done the solo mode for it. And, you know, we were thinking about waiting until we had more people. It felt like a game that would benefit from having more people at the table, but it's one that we're definitely looking forward to getting stuck into soon. Yeah, and I should say that the print quality of the deluxe edition is really beautiful. The only thing I don't have is the coins, which my friend Jazz tells me is a big mistake. But at the moment, this pledge, you can't actually add additional things to it, unfortunately. So I think I'll just go with the expansion for now, given the week I've had with the expenses. The next game is an interesting one. Actually, when this first appeared, I did back it. It is not cheap. It is €90. It's by Stefan Feld, which of course got my attention. I've already pre-ordered Bonfire. Exciting to see lots of games coming out from him. And this caught my attention. The artwork is really interesting and cool. And when I was going through this listing, I thought, this is going to be, you know, a great game. I think it's like set collection, but it's really cool because it's got a very positive spin. The theme wise, it's like you're putting on celebrations, and so you need a certain number of cards to beat your opponent to hosting that kind of celebration. It's got a really interesting mechanic. If you want to see more, Rado did a full playthrough of this. You basically share, like in this 4-player game like this, you can place your cards out on these 4 spaces in front of you, but the 2 on the left and the 2 on your right are shared with your opponents, and you can actually achieve the ceremonies through leveraging their cards as well, as my understanding. And so that does sound like a really interesting mechanic. Rado certainly loved it. However, when I was watching it just, for me, it didn't feel like there's a lot of like card reading and lots of cards is not, in and of itself, is not a huge draw card for us. I also think that it appears like a small box game. There's not a lot of components here, and you know, having kind of a high price is interesting. I just realized that this says you pledge. But that's the shipping. That is the shipping. So the game itself, I should correct, is €50. which is about 83 Australian dollars, 50 euro. $83 is quite an expensive game that's competing against some bigger games in Australia, but it's 90 euro with postage to Australia. So 40 euro, almost twice the price of the game to get to Australia. So that is just, that's crazy. Yeah, I think, you know, this is on my indecisive list at the moment because I have backed it and I got early bird pricing. So that gets me every time, but I think this will be removed from my list this week. It feels like a game that if it's Queen Games, it's probably going to retail. I can probably pick it up at a later stage. So that's it for this week. So expensive, so expensive. But there are some other games coming up next week that I'm interested in as well. One is Pachacuna. Pachacuna is, it involves llamas, which is super cool. And these little llamas here are just gorgeous with the different player colors. Or maybe not player colors, because actually this is a 2-player only game. So I don't know much about it. The board is quite sizable for a 2-player only game. So I'm hoping that means that it's a bit of a crunchy one. The designer did a game called Darwin's Choice, which I didn't pick up via Kickstarter, but it has been getting really great reviews on BGG. So I'm hopeful for this game, and it's really cute. I love the artwork, and so I'm looking forward to checking that out next week. And the other big release next week is Atlantis Rising. So yeah, you know, this has been a really big game for Elf Creek Games, and I'm sure there's lots of people out there that are excited to hear about the expansion. Maggie and I actually, this is a game, one of those weird ones where Maggie and I own the mat for it. So I purchased the game mat along with, I think it was Honey Buzz, but I don't actually have the game. So this might be, depending on what happens next week, this might be a good opportunity to pick up everything in one. And now the last game that I want to, actually it's not a game, but the last Kickstarter that I backed this week, which I thought was quite interesting, is this Spielbox English edition of a board game magazine. And Maggie had been saying to me, oh, I wish there was a magazine that, you know, I could just kind of read about all of the upcoming things. And then I came across this, and actually they've been making this magazine in German since the 80s, I believe. Yeah, since 1981. And I think this is the first year where they're going to offer it kind of in a bigger scale print version in English. And so there was an option for a trial print subscription for 3 weeks. So I went in on that too, just to suss it out and see if it's something that we want to subscribe to longer term. So that is everything for this week. I hope that this Kickstarter Diaries is not also costing you as much money as it's costing me, but I would encourage you to, you know, obviously a lot of games these days on Kickstarter, they're getting better and better at doing their pre-marketing. So often there are lots of reviews and playthroughs that you can check out to see whether a game is right for you. I always justify it, and if it's not right for me, I'll probably, you know, sell it or give it away. But yeah, it's not inexpensive as a hobby to back things on Kickstarter. But thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoy the comments on these videos. So please tell me what you're backing. Tell me your thoughts on any of these things that are happening this week or upcoming games that you're really excited about. We've also got lots coming from the recent Essen Spiel. Otherwise, have a lovely week ahead. I look forward to talking to you soon. Thanks and bye for now.